Hi, friends. How are you today? It's our last class, and I've got something really fun, a little bit different planned for you today. And I think we should just get right into it. Okay? Okay. So I don't know about you, but I love going for walks in the forest and looking at all the little plants that grow in the forest. And when I do my drawings and illustrations, I love to bring them into my drawings. So I like to draw little plants and flowers and mushrooms. I thought today we could make some forest plants and then we can create a beautiful collection of them all in a glass terrarium jar. And if you don't know what that is, just hold tight. I will explain it to you once we get to that point. So, in order for us to be able to do our beautiful terrarium at the end, the first drawings are going to be a lot more quick than we've been doing in the past classes. They're going to be really simple. We're going to go through them pretty quickly because we're going to do a final project today that takes a little bit more time. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is some mushrooms. And you will be familiar with this shape. You can get started with a nice curved line. And I'll show you how to make a mushroom cap that looks like that. And then, this is pretty simple. You guys can do that. And here's a fun part. You can put little, I don't know what these are called, but I think you might have seen them before on some red mushrooms, either in the forest or on pictures. And these would be white, these little dots. And so another thing that happens sometimes is you get a little bit of texture like this. I love mushrooms a lot, but I don't know much about their biology. But there's usually this kind of textured bit that goes down below the cap on the stem. So here's the thing, is once you get this basic mushroom shape, you could do different types of mushrooms. You can do tall, skinny mushrooms. And some of you might know what some mushrooms are called. And you could do little teeny tiny mushrooms that all grow in a cluster. And it's that same kind of shape with a round top and sort of a straight or slightly curved bottom. I don't know if you can see those, but they're just basically like this, but smaller. And then if you've got some that are kind of behind, you can just fit them in behind and then make the stem coming down like that. Okay, so here's the really fun part. If you were really little and you were looking at this mushroom from below, say you were just a little snail or a little tiny forest fairy, then you would see the under part of the mushroom. And here I'm going to show you how you can draw that part. Okay, so you start with your dome. And then instead of going down, we're going to go up like that. And then we will put in our stem. Okay. And then we're going to draw the back part of the mushroom. And that is similar to this line that we did, except it goes behind the stem. So there we can see it's like we're looking up underneath the mushroom. And you know what mushrooms have inside? I call them gills. I don't know what they're actually called, but they are just these little fine lines. And they start up in the center and they come all the way down. And then they spread apart because this section is bigger than where they come from. But I love this. This is my favorite part of mushrooms, is this little area underneath the cap. It's very delicate. Okay, so there we have some ways that you can draw mushrooms. And next, oh, I want to draw one more mushroom that I really like making. So it starts like this, and then it goes out. It's kind of like a UFO. And then it gets rounded and there, it's got a long skinny stem. Isn't that cute? And sometimes these ones have little decorative, like, kind of, I don't even know what they are. And I don't know if they're real. I've never actually seen one of these mushrooms. I just saw one in an illustration once and I liked it, so I make them myself. So they might just be made up mushrooms, but that's okay. We can make things up in art. That's one thing I love about making art. Okay, so there we have a good selection of mushrooms. So the next thing we can do is make some various types of plants. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how using one sort of standard way of making a plant and changing it, you can make plants, you could make, say 5 different plants that look really, really different just using this really basic method. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with a stem. And then we're going to create some leaves on our stem. So we'll just go right up to the top and we'll do a half, like a curved line that comes in at the top. And then we'll come back down and we'll do another one that meets up at the top. Okay, so that's a leaf. You can put a little vein through the middle if you like. So we are going to put more of these leaves going all the way down our stem. So this is, this is one very, very simple way that we can make a plant. And it doesn't have to be any particular plant. You can put your veins through the leaves if you like. I just like to keep it kind of simple. So instead of putting lots of little veins through the leaves, I usually just put one. But you can put however you like. It's your drawing. Okay, so let's see how many different variations of this style of plant we can make. If we start with another stem, and this time instead we make the leaves very long and narrow. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to do a narrow, long leaf like that. And then we will put another one in. And I think this one will end up having more than just 3 on the side because there's room for a lot more. And we'll see, maybe I'll put a little bit less on this side and see how I feel about it. Sometimes you have to just do it to see what it looks like. You don't really always know ahead of time. Sometimes I'll be making something and I think it's going to look a certain way and it doesn't turn out that way at all. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not so good, but so see what happened is that this ended up creating a little bit of a split where this one didn't stick out the top like that. So I'm actually just going to go right in here and stick one more. Okay, so another way that we could do this is with sort of rounder leaves. So same thing. We'll just put some rounder leaves like that. Think you get the picture? And if you wanted, you could put some leaves that come out front like this and then erase the stem. Because in real life, very few leaves are flat. Some are, but very few that have multiple leaves on them, because this would actually be like a branch probably, right? And these are the leaves. Quite often, some of the leaves will be coming up, not all just going this way, and some will be going that way. But that gets a little bit tricky sometimes. But here's one way that you can show that the leaves are on top and to the side as well. All right. You could also put some little leaves in here, maybe. Right, and so there's another one I like to do, and it's usually smaller, and it's just a little one like that, and then I'll stick a little stem and put another one like that. You see that okay? So what we're going to end up with is a cute little branch. And these could be leaves, or they could even be berries. There's lots of little berries in the woods. Okay, so I think we'll do one more, and maybe I'll make it kind of like ripply. I'm not sure if I've done this before, so I'm just going to experiment with you. So I'm going to make kind of a ripply leaf like that. Oh, okay, so I think I'm going to put the leaf around this. I wasn't really thinking about it, so yeah, that works. And then, so it's basically like this, but it's just a different shape, a different plant. Okay. So, one of my favorite things to find in the forest is moss, but moss is kind of tricky to draw. But I think we could probably simulate some moss, especially if you had a green pencil crayon, by just making a little bit of texture. But we'll see. When we make our terrarium, we'll see if we can get some moss on it. It might work. But moss is very, very, very small, and it's just tiny little. If you ever took a really good look at moss, it's just teeny tiny, itty bitty little leaves that all come together to make it look like one big green carpet. All right, so last thing before we make our terrarium is some little forest flowers. So the flowers that grow in the forest, well, coming up soon will be the trilliums, which are not little, but they won't fit in our terrarium jar. So we're just going to do the little tiny ones, and some of them look like daisies. So we could do a little center like this, and then we just put some petals around it. And what I've done is I've made the center more oval than round. So I'm going to make all the petals at the back nice and long. Right around the side. And then we're going to make these ones a little bit shorter. Let's see how that looks. And then that makes it look like it's sort of, you're seeing it sort of the side and the front and the back, but it's not facing us completely. So if it was facing us completely, it would be more round like that. So we're creating a little bit of dimension in our drawing. Okay, and these leaves can be touching or overlapping or spaced out like that one. And then another way that you can draw a daisy is if you draw it so that you're seeing it completely from the side, so that this is the top of this center. And all the petals, we don't see any petals along the back. Instead, we see all the petals going along the side and down the front. Can you see it coming along here? See, and the stem would just come like this. And with this one, I guess the stem just comes from the bottom, but you want the stem always to come from the center. So if you're putting the stem, just imagine it coming from the center and then down. So there's our little forest daisies, and these can be purple, pink, yellow. They could have pointed tips. You can really see how it changes the whole flower if I put some little pointy tips on it. It makes it look like a completely different flower. So this nice basic shape, you could make big garden daisies or black-eyed Susans, or you could even make an echinacea or a purple coneflower. We just have a bigger top like that. But for the terrarium, we're just going to keep little forest daisies. Okay, so another one we can do is bells, and the bell-shaped flower is going to have a really long, and we're going to make a bell shape. So it's like a long curved top, and then we can just carry that around like that, and or we can do the same shape and then do like a ripply bottom. And there could be some little stamen coming out the bottom. And another thing that there could be is a little leaf, kind of like leafy bit here on the top. And these usually grow in a cluster. So let's see what happens if we put a stem on. Try to create a little cluster. Okay. So I'm going to put another one here, and it's going to be behind this one a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to imagine it going through or behind. So see how I didn't go through the flower? I just lifted my pencil up and dropped it back on the other side of the flower. And that way it automatically is behind the first one. And then I put the ripply bottom, some stamen, and then we'll have to imagine in our main stem here. So before I put this one on the stem, I'm going to create the stem. So now I have somewhere to attach this one. Oh, I got to put those little leaves. Okay. And now that we have that, I think I will put another one on this side, and then we'll have a nice little cluster of bell flowers. So maybe I'll create the stem first. And you can always erase this little line after. And this one is going to go in front of the stem. So we can just create the whole bell shape. And then we can erase that part of the stem. And then there we go. Okay, and on these you can put some little leaves. That's our leaf shape. You could pop a little leaf here. All right, there you are. You've got a nice little bunch of bell flowers. And often when I see these, there's white or they're purple. Okay, so there we have it. Sure. Yep. Hey guys. So what's happening right now? We're doing something. So I'm like, you can see me. We're making an adjustment. So I don't know if something was hard to see for you or if things were out of focus. If do you think there's anything? I'm just asking my friend Anita here. Do you think there's anything that I should go over once we get it all fixed up? No? Okay. You guys are pretty smart. I bet you're. Yeah, so we're just going to be a minute. You can practice your flowers and your mushrooms and your leaves and your plants and dream about being in the forest. And if you're lucky enough to live close to a forest or have a forest in your yard, then you're very, very lucky, but you probably know that. And every once in a while, what you'll see in the forest is little creatures like frogs, or what else do we see? Snails, a little snail on top of a mushroom. Maybe I'll do that when we do our terrarium. Okay, so we're back. Our adjustments have been made. Let's start our terrarium. So I am going to fill my whole page with a glass jar, and that is what we're going to use for our terrarium. So a terrarium is an ecosystem that lives inside of a glass jar with a lid, and it's self-sustaining, so you don't have to water it. You have to put it in a nice kind of lightly sunny but not directly sunny area, and it's like its own little world inside, and they're beautiful. So we're going to make one today, a picture of one. Okay, so we will start with the top of our terrarium, and we're going to create the cork first. So we're going to create right up at the top here, but you want to leave a little bit of room. We're going to create a slightly curved line. Okay. And then we're going to basically do the same line but going across the back. And then we're going to come down here inside this line. We're going to make a little dot. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So we come in a little bit and come down. And just take a second and look and see. Do they kind of match up? I think they do. And then we'll just draw a line coming down. Okay. And then we draw the bottom of the cork. So the cork is inside the top of the terrarium. So what we need to do is about halfway up the cork, we need to create the top of the glass jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line like this, but it's bigger. It starts over here, about halfway up, and then it comes down. Do you want to leave a little space there, okay? And then we're going to create this line. So it's the back of the jar, but it's not going through the cork. It's going behind the cork. And then we follow it over here. So we start here, we stop at the cork, lift up our pencil, stay close to the cork so that you drop it down about where it would be on the other side. Okay, so we have the cork going in, but there's something missing. We need one extra little bit, so it starts right around here, and it's just a line. Okay, and then we'll just kind of curve that line up. So then we're going to create our actual bottle shape. So I'm going to make a nice big shape, but it's narrow at the top. So I think what I'll do is create the bottom. So I'm going to follow my pencil, follow with my pencil all the way to the bottom and just kind of create a mark. Feels like the center. And then I'm going to come out and then I'm going to try to go to the other side about that far. Okay? So this gives me an idea of where I want to stop the next line that I'm going to make. So this part's really fun. You can just come in a nice narrow top and a nice big shape like that. All right. So this is the part that can be a little bit tricky. We have to duplicate this shape over on this side. So take your time. Remember, we're going to come down to around where this dot is. So we want to go in. Take your time and around. Okay, so I can see that mine is not as far over on this side as it was on this side, and you can leave it. It can be sort of a misshaped terrarium, or you can fix it. And I like things that are not perfect, so I'm going to leave it. The great thing about glass too is sometimes you get like a handmade glass jar and it looks like this. So then we just put our bottom on, and this is actually going to be flat. Okay, because it's sitting on a table or a shelf. All right. So one thing, I think I will just round off these corners. So you can do that if you like. I like the corners. I don't like corners on my tops of my terrarium. I'm just going to round that off a little bit. See how I'm doing that? Instead of it being sharp, it just makes it a little bit softer looking. Okay, so here's the fun part. And up to this point, every week we've done everything step by step. And today, for our terrarium, we're going to build our terrarium however we like. So I'm just going to put my plants and my mushrooms and everything in place, and you can do yours exactly like I make mine, or you can change it up however you like, okay? But one thing we will start with is a bit of soil. And it's just kind of a little bit of a bumpy line across the bottom. And this is going to give our plants roots, something to anchor into so that they don't all fall down. All right, so we got all our nice little soil there. And now we can put some little pebbles and rocks. Not a whole lot, but it is nice to have some of those in there. And I think I'm going to start with a mushroom right here. And I'm going to make it sort of a bigger mushroom, because I think I might end up putting a little snail on there. We'll see. And I'm going to make this one of those mushrooms that you can see under, because I just feel like they're a lot of fun to look at. Okay, and I'm doing this nice and slowly in case you're following along and you've forgotten because it was your first time. Okay, and then the back of the mushroom goes like that. And we'll get those gills in there. I think now that I've said it out loud, I'm going to look that up today when I get home and find out what those are called, because I don't think they're called gills. Oh, I'm being told that they are called gills. Huh. I love that. Oh, so I'm actually just not remembering that I had already learned that when I did something else. Gills. Thanks, Anita. Anita just told me that. You can't hear her, but she's... I think another mushroom goes here, but I'm going to create that sense of forward and like foreground and background, that sense of depth that you get when you place something behind another thing. So I'm going to put another mushroom here, but look, I'm starting the top and I'm going to carry it behind. Remember how to do that? And then I'm going to make this one kind of tilting over a little bit. And because it's tilting, its stem is a little bit curved. There. There we go. 2 mushrooms with gills. All right, I think we got to get some flowers in here. I usually do the flowers first, and then I get sort of the plants filled in around everything. And then I look and see if there's room for more stuff. All right, so I'm going to put some daisies, some little daisies, and I'm going to put them here. So I'm going to put 3 daisies. I'm going to do 1 of each type that I showed you. So I'll start with one that is just the half, where this is the top of the daisy, and all we see are the petals going this way. See what I'm doing? I'm not even taking my pencil off, but sometimes I do that because I'm cheeky, and then I end up with a whole bunch of stuff in the corner there. I have to remember that it doesn't always work out. That's my forever loving to doodle nature. So then coming from the center of the flower will be the stem. And then I'm going to put another one here. And this one will be facing us. So I'm going to make it, actually no, I'm going to make it shorter. I'm going to put it here and it'll be facing us. So every time I come to another object, a petal, and I'm crossing through it, I have to decide, is this going to be in front or behind? So I'm going to make it behind, and then anything else that crosses with this plant has to also be behind. But it won't matter now because we don't have any more parts that it'll run into. Here we go. It's a bright, cheerful daisy. And then I think I will make another one coming right through them, and it's going to be behind, so I'm pulling my pencil up, dropping it back down, just trying to carry that stem through everything, and it'll be right here. It's going to be a nice tall one, and that will be the one that has the petals going up around the back. And to the side, and a little bit down, and then they get a little bit shorter. And these are just fun little shapes, nothing serious, but it kind of gives you the idea that the petal is coming toward you. Okay, so over here, I'm going to put some of our little bells, our little, we can call them bluebells, maybe? I'm not sure. First thing I'm going to do this time is I'm actually going to put the stem in place so that I have some control over where I put things. And then I'm going to put the first bell right here. A little squiggle squiggle. And then I'm going to put another one here. And I find it easier sometimes to put the flowers in place and then the stem, not the main stem necessarily, but the stem that attaches it to the main stem after. All right. Thicken up this main stem bit. My pencil is quite dull, and I keep it dull for class so that you can see those really dark lines, but it makes it harder for me to do some really fine lines, but that's okay. I'm just erasing because this flower is in front of the stem, so I'm erasing where the stem went through. And I'm going to put one more here. And maybe that one comes in front of the mushroom. So I'm going to erase that part of the mushroom, and then this can come in front. All right, I think we should get some greens in here, and then I decided instead of putting a snail on the mushroom, I'm going to put a dragonfly, and I'm going to put it up here. Now, if this was a real terrarium, we wouldn't have any dragonflies in it, but it's make-believe, so we can put whatever we want in here, right? So now I'm just going to start filling it in with all my little plants. I'm not going to make it too cluttered, but I'm going to fill in a lot of these little spaces with all those little plants that we made at the beginning. And maybe here I'm going to make a little moss ball, a little mound of moss. Yeah. Okay, so this is moss. And this is also moss. My terrarium at home is full of moss, and it makes me smile every morning when I drink my morning tea and I look at my terrarium full of moss and plants. Okay, so now I'm going to put some plants in here. So you remember you start with the stem, and then you just pop your leaves on it, however you like. So I'm not going to try to get a bunch of leaves behind there because I don't want it to get really messy looking. I'll just put one here. Okay. So maybe another one here. I think I'm going to put some leaves on these daisies. Okay. Now we're just filling it in. I'd love to see what yours look like. If there's any way that you can show me, please show me. I would love to see them. If anybody there wanted to take a picture and send it to me, you can. You could send it to our Instagram or Facebook messages. Yeah, the person who signed you up, the adults that signed you up, mom, dad, grandpa, auntie, they might be able to help you with that. And if not, that's okay. All right, so I'm going to put some more plants here. And these ones, I'm just going to bring them right to the edge of the jar, and it kind of fills the jar in. All right, I'm just about ready to put a dragonfly in this terrarium. If we had more time, I would fill this with color with you. I always take a really long time to color my drawings in, though. Okay, what do you think? Right here? So to make a dragonfly, if you want to make one with me, I'll start with a little round head. And then I'm going to create a long... This isn't completely accurate of how the dragonfly looks like in real life. If you know, their bodies are quite a bit rounder up here, but for some reason this is how I always draw, kind of like a more cartoon dragonfly. And then I put a really long tail on it. And then I'm going to put 2 wings on each side. So the wings will be, this dragonfly is very big for this jar. And then we can put some little antenna here. And maybe some little legs. Or not. I don't know if I like that or not, but that's okay. You can play around with it. And you could make the body shorter if you like. And just start it there. And you can also like separate all these little sections off and color them in different colors. There. Maybe one more little plant here, and then I think it might be time to say goodbye. But if you remember from last week, I made a promise to you, and I can't give it to you in person, but I made a very special coloring sheet or a drawing sheet for you. And it's one of my favorite things to draw, and I didn't show it to you yet. So I'm going to show it to you right now. So voila, there is our magical forest terrarium or garden terrarium. All right, so it's not here, it's hiding underneath my other sheet here. So I made you, I got it kind of wrinkled, but I made you a drawing sheet to create this beautiful fox. So if you're ever lucky enough to see a fox, maybe in the forest or maybe out in your yard or out for a drive, you know, they're pretty fun. They're pretty fun to watch. So this is going to be a downloadable step-by-step sheet that you will be able to follow along. And it will go to the person who signed you up. It's going to go into their email. They're going to get an email from us over the next day or so, okay? So if you can be patient with us, you will receive this. It can be printed, and then you'll have a printed copy. Or if you don't have a printer, it can just be, you can just see it on your computer or your tablet, okay? And that's that. All right, so hard to believe it's 4 weeks is up and we've spent all this time together and made all these amazing drawings. Like I said, if you have any way of sharing your work with me, please do. And if you can't, don't be too sad, because I'm sure we're going to see each other again sometime and do lots of artwork together sometime. And with that, I have to say, see you later, alligators. Enjoy the rest of your spring break, and bye.